Thank you, Ben. And we are at 6 o'clock, so I'll call the meeting to order, and we will start with Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Thanks, folks. I did notice that you all remained muted, so it was a solo rendition of the pledge. So we can go to the first item on the agenda.
On the first item on the agenda is the student liaison Grant Rosencroft.
All right, Grant, Happy New Year. Welcome.
Happy New Year. Good evening. Since this past December and early January, the high school has had quite a few highlights. Firstly, on December 14th, 5 of our teams from the CTE Computer Science program competed in round 2 of the Cyber Patriot competition. Nationally, there were 2,919 teams which competed. One of our teams placed in the top 15 percentile, with another placing in the top 8.
I think we lost your audio, Grant.
Grant, we lost your audio.
Teams competing in the
There we
silver.
go.
Grant, we lost your audio.
Oh, man.
Please,
You're back now.
Okay, I'm back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So go back about a paragraph.
Okay. All right, so firstly, on December 14th, 5 of our teams from the CTE Computer Science program competed in round 2 of the Cyber Patriot competition. Nationally, there were 2,919 teams which competed. One of our teams, placed in the top 15th percentile, with another placing in the top 18th percentile. Both these teams, which placed 2nd and 3rd, will compete in the platinum tier. Our team, which placed in 10th, will move on to compete in the gold tier, with our 15th and 16th placing teams competing in the silver tier. In a virtual event, the Fine Arts Department held a recorded concert that went out to the community just prior to vacation. We applaud and congratulate all the musicians and teachers involved for innovating in order to share this gift with us during such a unique holiday season. The Student Council, in conjunction with the School Counseling Department, concluded their stress management video and poster contest. The high school students of all grades submitted entries which were meant to highlight the stress management techniques they have used to cope over the past few months. Competition was stiff. However, in the end, Dakota Smith won Best Poster with Alexia.
Well, he froze again.
You there? Hold on, Grant. Let your internet catch up.
Composed a video on tips and tricks to best navigate Skyward and Classroom, 2 online sites relied on heavily for the school year. The video was shown during advisory as additional resources for students. These excellent presentations, which were very well received by the student body, gave our students new methods to take on tasks faced every day, helping students remain organized. There are also some upcoming events which East Providence High School students and staff are looking forward to. Monday, January 18th, will be Martin Luther King Jr. Day in honor of the civil rights icon. This will be observed with no school, creating a long weekend. Monday, January 25th, will be Professional Development Day for teachers. Assignments will be posted for this day on the classroom site. Tuesday, January 26th, will be the PSAT day for all juniors. Any questions can be forwarded to Mr. Courier by contacting him or calling the high school. Then, on February 3rd, quarter 2 will end.
That's your report, I take it. I see you muting your mic.
Yes.
All right, thank you very much, and good to see you again, Grant.
Good to see you.
You know, it's impressive to hear, you know, that there's some normalcy still continuing in the schools. So again, thanks for the time. I do want to take a moment to kind of express to the folks in the public what our plans are as far as the format of the meetings. There was a trial, if you will, with the inauguration to do a hybrid, you know, in person and virtual. It was, I'd say, you know, for the most part, successful video-wise. You know, there's some audio stuff that we want to work out, and obviously being heard by the public, whether they're in person or virtual, is critical to, you know, however we do this. I believe at this point, which is different from a few months ago, we do have, and Ben can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we have most, if not all, of the equipment that we need. It's just a matter of tweaking the setup and the combination of that. Because again, you know, we did have a few audio challenges, not for lack of effort by our IT at all. It's just it's a unique setup, and we will figure it out. The goal is to have our February meeting be hybrid at minimum, so that we will have the members that are available to meet in person meeting as well as any admin in that space. And then we'll work out the logistics. Obviously, the Department of Health will have some say as far as our gathering abilities, but we'll monitor that. But from a technology standpoint, that's the goal. So with that, we can move on again. Thank you, Grant, and we'll move on to the next item.
The next agenda item is the consent agenda with communications, correspondence, homeschool requests, approval of minutes for the December 8th, 2020 school committee meeting and the December 7th, 2020 building committee meeting.
I'd just like to call your attention to some of the communication in that section of your packet. If you look there, you have an APRA request that has been sent to us. Our lawyer is handling that, collecting the information. He did ask for a 20-day extension because one of the people we needed to get information from was on vacation. I believe he has all that information now. An APRA request, you can only produce reports that you have. If you don't have that report, you don't have to make it up. So you just report that that report is not available. So I have that in your packet. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me. If you look at the NEARI document in there, that was sent out on October 28th. It was resent to us. The teachers union would like to resume negotiations as soon as possible. So that communication is in that packet as well. Jessica, I believe you asked for some information on middle school and high school sports. They are in the packet, but I will tell you that as of today, the winter sports changed slightly in that there can be no spectators in the gymnasium for winter sports, except for the senior night. That would be the only time they can be allowed in the gymnasium. That came out from the Rhode Island Interscholastic League today, late this afternoon, from the Interscholastic League. So that's in addition to that. Okay, there are 2 appointments there as well. And then of course, the normal enrollment and tickets, etc. But I wanted to call your attention to those documents. Thank you.
And the to the committee, correct me if I'm wrong on this, the approval of the minutes, is that, I'm just wondering if that's something that would be done, should be done here or down in the action items?
All of the minutes is usually done here under communication.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. All right.
So you
I-
have a.
I
Yeah,
oh.
go ahead.
I make a motion to approve
We have a
the
motion-
school committee meeting, the December 8th, and the minutes for December 7th building committee.
I'll second that motion.
we have a motion by Ms. Boucher, second by Mr. Brandel. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we'll take that as a 5-0 on that. Just folks on the votes, make sure you're unmuted. And just on the APRA, as the committee has looked at it, one of those is asking for the maintenance plan for the new high school. The school committee, at least Jessica and Charlie will remember that, in the December meeting, we approved to contract that plan to be developed by a property management company so that it's done to the detail. And then from there, we'll obviously approve that plan as a committee and execute it. So I would expect that's, it was public record, publicly done, but that request could have passed, in the mail with it. So
And I'll have
that
your,
said,
I'll
I'm
have
sorry?
the answers to those requests in your next meeting, February meeting, so you can see our response to the
Okay.
app. All right?
Thank you.
Catherine, or through the chair, now that the Interscholastic Week has said that we cannot have any spectators, I know that there was we were going to try to video these games. Can we really try to videotape these games now?
Yes, I heard Greg say that they were going to do that. Yes.
Okay.
Are they taping to post afterward or live streaming?
I could jump in and answer. We're currently working with the athletics department to set up live stream if possible.
Thank you, Ben.
Thank you.
And thank you, Jess, for chasing
Mhm.
that one. Okay, next item.
We need an approval on the consent agenda, Mr. Chair. The whole agenda, you approved the consent agenda.
Yes, I'm sorry, because Ms. Boucher, yes, that's
Yeah.
right. The order was,
That's lawfully, yeah.
the motion was just for the minutes. She
Yeah.
didn't want to accept the rest of it.
It's because I like to get to the homeschool request thing and I didn't get there yet. I don't,
Then take your time. Yeah, please, let's.
no, I've
do
already read it over. I was just double checking as I scroll. So,
Yeah.
I make a motion to accept the consent agenda.
All right, we have a motion by Ms.
As
Boucher
well.
on the complete consent
The
agenda.
whole complete.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
We have a second. I gave the last one to Max, so we're gonna give Jenny this one. So Ms. Azanero will be on the books as a second. And so we have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, that carries. And before we move on, I do want to welcome the two members to the first official school committee member, and I apologize for not starting off that way. So again, welcome to what we all learn to love and enjoy every second Tuesday of the month. So,
Thanks, Joel. Happy to be here.
all right, next item, please.
The next agenda item is public comments.
And do we have any listed?
I believe there's any public comments.
No public comments.
Okay, thank you. Having none, next item.
Next item is the superintendent's report.
Yes. And the first item under my report this evening is the NESDEC 2021 enrollment projection report for you to look at. Every year, this organization does a demographic study and reports out on the enrollment figures. If you look at those enrollment figures, there is a slight dip in enrollment. Now, that doesn't take into account anything that happens most recently as far as buildings, etc. So that's the most information at the time that the report was printed. So that's in there for you to look at. If you have any questions regarding that report, please bring it up at the next meeting or give me a call. The next item on the agenda is Shout by Dr. Bowler and Dakota Watkins. So I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Bowler. Unmute Celeste.
I just did. Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and certainly welcome to the new members of the school committee. I'd like to share some information with you and ask your support of a club that we hope to establish at the high school. One of the district's strategic plan goals is equity. And last year and continuing through this year, we have had professional development focused on equity, social and racial justice, diversity, inclusivity. Last year, from our Diversity Talks Works, the team of student facilitators came to me and asked about forming a club. And they had named the club Shout. And my understanding is that there's a process to go through to have a club established at the high school. So I've been working along with Dakota, who is going to speak a little bit about the vision of the club and to create this club. And the goal is for student voice, student advocacy, and for students to have a safe place to have conversations about social justice, equity, and also about the high school in terms of their involvement in some of the activities, the governance at the high school. So I have spent the year with Dakota making sure I stayed on task, looking for funding, and was able to secure funding for this year to cover the cost of the advisor. We have worked on the job description for the advisor that has been approved through Nick. And so Dakota will speak a little bit about establishing the club. And then I'm hoping if you have any questions, we can answer those questions, but I'm hoping that you will support the inclusion of Shout as one of the club activities at the high school. So Dakota, I know you're out there.
Yes, he is.
Dr. Bowler. I'd like to say just thank you for having me here today. I really appreciate just giving me the time and space to speak. So Shout, as Dr. Bowler said, it's by students for students. It's students advocating for each other, and it's an attempt to get students to empower each other as well. It serves 6 main functions at the moment, or it will serve 6 main functions. The first function will be a space for students to come together and share their positive and negative experiences in their educational careers. Like Dr. Bowler said, just a space where students can come together and speak their minds without fear of, maybe stepping on toes or anything like that. The second function would be a place where students can come together and educate and empower each other on student voice and issues of student voice and educational policy. So they will, essentially study what makes a school go, the policies that affect them. And from there, they will, 3, poll the student body to figure out what issues students feel most passionate about, what issues may be affecting students' lives the most in school. From there, the plan is to have those students then draft up calls or proposals for policy change, so students would receive the results of the polls. Say the vast majority of students at East Providence High School believe there needs to be a change in policy for how the school approaches some environmental standard. From there, students will take those opinions, those polls, and any interviews that are done, and compile a paper calling for a change in policy. And then 5 would be students being sent to either the school committee or RIDE to collaborate with educators and administrators in figuring out how to make sure that students who are passionate about their school and students who are involved in trying to make a change and trying to get a voice for themselves are involved in the issues that affect them in their day-to-day lives in the school. that's really it. I just want to do a simple, brief overview of the club to save time for questions in terms of its function. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask away.
So I will add to Dakota's talk that the club, we have not established the parameters of the club. These are the ideas, but if you provide approval, then we will be out looking to generate club members, students who would be interested in attending, and then begin to, under the direction of an adult advisor, begin to organize the types of activities and discussions that would occur within SHOUT.
Any questions from the committee?
I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you for taking this initiative. Thank you for getting kids involved, and you know, I think this sounds wonderful and great, and I hope it is long lasting, and I hope we can continue. If we need to continue to find funding, I would rather see the funding and make sure we put that forward going forth, so that we don't have to find this type of funding to have this type of thing, et cetera.
Thank you.
So,
We appreciate that.
well,
I have a question for either Dr. Bowler or Dakota. And Dakota, thanks again. You're becoming a regular at the at the meetings. You know, I don't know if that speaks to, I don't know, you're a glutton for punishment, or you've got a future that, you know, I'm sure will surpass us here. But I love the idea. Obviously, I mean the inclusion, the equity of voice, you know, which has been a strong push by the district. It's so much appreciated. The question that I have is, how does this differ from your typical school student council? Because like all of those duties is what I would like or would think, right? I don't want to say that it's not coming from our student council, but you know, I think it's safe to say that the student council was not designed with the equity drive behind it, which would be a differentiator. But as far as, you know, it sounds like feedback from the students to come forward to affect the way things operate in the school.
So,
how do the two of them work together?
So I would say Dakota summarized that aspect of SHOUT, but there's also the aspect of having a safe place to talk about social and racial justice, to have students understand how to advocate, and also having a safe place so I'll take what just happened in the Capitol. So what we are trying to do is to provide teachers with an understanding and knowledge of how to have these conversations with students in a safe place in classrooms. But as we are working towards that, this is another avenue for students to have a safe place, non-judgmental, all voices heard, whoever you are and whatever you believe, to have those safe conversations. So there are really two pieces. I guess I didn't explain my part as strong as Dakota explained his part, but it is a combination of both, which I think sets it apart from student council.
Dr. Bowler, are there, now, when I saw this on the agenda, I was unaware of where we were going with this, so I just looked up some stuff. Are there other chapters of SHOUT in Rhode Island?
No, as far as we know, SHOUT does not exist. It doesn't even exist now.
I just happened to find an article, and I didn't know if this was the way it was going, but in Pittsburgh, and it pretty much summarized kind of where you're going with the framework of this. Mm-hmm. One of the quotes was, the handprints heal footprints. And when you guys were describing it, that's how it sounded to me. And Joel, just so you know, a lot of student council usually has to raise money for other stuff. So just want to give you that heads up on that.
Yeah,
So-
be prepared, but
So,
Well,
Dakota may be
that's
able
a
to tell
different-
you, oh, sorry, Jessica. Dakota may
Yeah.
be able to tell you how he came up with the title Shout.
Yeah.
But that's the title that they gave. So Dakota, do you have any?
I would love to hear it.
Yeah, so I'm gonna be a little like sentimental, I guess. The title is almost, I at least to me, something of a bit more poetic. I feel as though at least in my experience as a student, I have a lot of peers. The whole reason for me coming up with this club and the people that helped me come up with this club was because there are a good amount of students that feel very passionately about issues, but are not given the space to talk about those issues or to bring their ideas to the table for providing solutions to those issues. So it's almost as if, some of us are kind of just shouting. Some of us are kind of just, so wanting to let it all out and bring our ideas to the table and be involved, have a seat at the table and talk about these issues and bring our proposals and our ideas for solutions, that I felt as though Shout was just a good name for the club, and that it kind of represented the whole movement, that it's students who don't want to just be seen as almost kids, if that is clear at all. Like, I feel like too often people of a younger age are associated with, maybe because they don't have enough experience, they can't do something. And while definitely, this club is not just students running it, this club is students collaborating with administration, collaborating with teachers, doing their own independent research. The whole important point is that it's students taking the initiative. It's students putting their foot down and saying, I want to be the body that makes change. But back to the meaning of the name of the club, Shout, is because I feel like, a lot of my friends, like I said, feel disenfranchised and like they can't do anything about the problems that are facing them in their education. And so I felt like Shout was just a good name because it represented how people are kind of like internally shouting, like mad, or not mad, but passionate about wanting there to be change.
And I can tell you, Dakota was one of many students who were facilitators for Diversity Talk. And it was a group of students who cornered me after a class and talked passionately about this idea. In the beginning, it didn't have a name. And then at the next class, I got cornered again about this idea for Shout from this group of students. And I said to them, I'll think about it and I'll work on it. And really not me saying this is what, well, the idea of the club, because if it's student voice, student empowerment, then they should be very much involved in the function under the guidance of an adult, and also in collaboration with the principal. And I'll be watching too. So they're not totally on their own. I don't want you to think that.
So it's the name is symbolic of that sense that you guys have to, that desire to be heard. It's like, and you said it's that internal feeling of shouting and getting your voice heard. I think it's great.
Yeah.
And I think it's
less shouting in a mad way, more shouting in a passionate way.
Sure. Yeah.
And I think it depends on from your perspective. You may be shouting about social injustice. You may be shouting about something that's happening within the school. You may be shouting about who you are. So it allows for that conversation amongst students in a safe place.
And I just want to add to that. Last year, when we were surveying the students as part of what they were looking for in the new high school, we heard it loud and clear that they felt that they really didn't have a voice in what was going on in their school. It did come across loud and clear. So we went to do our strategic plan. This is Dr. Bowler's passion, and she took up that particular goal. I just finished my diversity talk session where there were quite a few of our administrators on the session. And again, it was led by students. If you ever have the opportunity to be part of that, I would strongly recommend it. I was so impressed by the student leaders that handle the diversity talk. So I see this shout almost as an outgrowth of that. So I want to thank Dr. Bowler, and I want to thank Dakota, who's also involved in that, and all of the students that were involved in that diversity talk. She would have been very proud of how they handled that. And they were principals on there were directors on there. Diana sitting here, she participated in that. And, you know, Sandy Ferran was there, I was there, and they just handled it from beginning to end. They were just remarkable. So I want that to be noted.
Yeah. So what do we need? I think it's great. So what does Shout need from the school committee or the district? Because I don't see any action items.
No, we just wanted to come forward and make sure that it was okay with you. I have approved it on my level, and we wanted you to be familiar with what was going on, not just hear about it. It was a chain of command type thing.
Okay, and with all due respect, I know that you've approved it, but I'm asking what the district's role in it is. If there's, you know, are we looking at like who's leading it? Is there, you know, usually when you have an organization that is approved by the district, there are some, you know, responsibilities or liabilities that come along with leading those groups that usually require.
So
So that would require a school committee approval. It's not a superintendent's approval to take on anything if there's responsibilities or obligations from the district, which I would support. I just want to cover the basis.
So in terms of that, my understanding was we had to come to you first. Once you make a decision, I have a job description that has been reviewed by Nick for the advisor. Once we have the advisor, once we post the job description, then we will interview and select. So there's a whole process in terms of establishing the club, and it will have the oversight of the advisor and also me, and also the building principal. No activities will be carried out without the knowledge of the building principal and under the direction of the advisor.
And seeking.
So it would operate no different from any other club.
Right. Some clubs have financial impacts to the budget, is my point.
So what I didn't say was, as Jessica said, right now the cost for the advisor will be covered from grant funding. I also created a budget from grant funding for the club. So right now, the only thing I need from you is a go.
Well, right, but hold on. And again, excuse my, and I actually want to move on to something here, but grant funds in many cases go into the general and then get dispersed as they're expected, but there's still a handling, which is why they're kind of tracked on the budget that we get from Craig.
So what do you mean by the handling? I'm not sure.
In other words, you know, the money comes into the district and then is allocated as it's intended. But there are other programs or there are grant funded positions in the district that still require school committee approval to fill and pay. And I want to make sure that everything is on the books. And again, what I'm saying is put it there. I don't anticipate any objection at all. I just want, you know, I don't want to get into a habit where we're saying, oh yeah, no, don't worry, somebody else, we already approved that, don't worry.
I'm not sure I'm following what.
Jessica, you don't understand what I'm saying?
So like when we had the art club that came forward years ago and we put an advisor in there, that advisor eventually went into our yearly budget. So I think that's the question I had to ask up front was, you know, I thank you for going out to get grant funding. I wish that wasn't the way we had to do something like this, where children actually have a voice in a school. Dakota, way to go. Dr. Bowler, way to go. Like ultimately, let's bring it down all levels. So I do understand, and my only concern is that going forward next year, that we wouldn't make this a grant funded position, that we would actually get an advisor who would get paid through the school system. Because to me, yeah, to put something like this into the budget, I understand, because like we've never really, I mean, the last time that an actual club came in front of us was when the art club did, and it was so popular and so unbelievable that we had to get an assistant. So I just think that whether or not it was brought up tonight because I needed a feel good moment and you just brought that to me, I'll take it. But I don't really see, you know, if things like this need to be brought up more often, because we need it and I need to hear it, that I know what's going on in the schools, and it's something that it's student led with, you know, administrators willing to lend some time, I'm all for it. So I know where you're kind of going with this, Joel, about like why this particular item, but I also, I'm good with hearing about it. So
no, I love hearing about it. Like I said, I want to get it kind of in place. So essentially my understanding, and unless someone has something to tell me differently, is that if the advisor to this group, regardless of where the funds come from, if they receive those funds via an East Providence School Department payroll distribution, then it's in our budget and needs to go through the process of being approved as a position in the district that's being paid, and let's get it approved. Let's get it squared away. I just don't want to follow a practice where things happen and then somebody objects to something down the line that, you know, listen, crazy things, you know what I mean? Crazy things happen, and then all of a sudden you get an objection from another employee that's mad that somebody's getting, I hate to say it. I don't want it. This is a great idea, and I don't want anything getting in the way. So I'm just saying, let's get every process that's required on the next agenda, and let's get this thing rolling.
So when you say every process, what processes are you talking about? So
well, it sounds to me, right. So it sounds to me like we're looking at potentially an additional union stipend position with a payroll distribution.
Yes, it's the advisorship would be posted. Anybody could apply for that within the union.
Right.
Joe,
So,
yeah. And then the principal, along with the committee, would interview for that, yeah. And then that would come to me for approval, and then it would come to you.
Right. So
we don't need to see it. So.
No, it's an added position in the district.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have to approve it.
The position. Then after that, it's automatic.
Yeah. So okay. No, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And again, I think Dakota, thank you very much. And your crew, everybody that harassed Dr. Bowler on this, kudos. Nice job. Absolutely awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good, Dakota.
The next
I'm sorry. Only in an interest of time, if the committee is okay. At the last meeting, it was asked that a representative of Peregrine be present for the building update. So Mr. Sam Bradner is available. He does have another meeting at 7. So I asked him to come on with the hopes that the committee would be okay with moving that building report up to basically the 6:30-ish time frame, so that he could present that, answer any questions, and
I would make a motion to do that.
Okay, so we've got a motion to basically move item 9, the building committee report, to the current state. Do we have a second?
I'll second it. I'll second it.
Okay, so we have a motion by Ms. Boucher, second by Mr. Chonis. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay. Thanks, folks. And Sam, thank you again. For those that I think everyone here knows Max and Jenny. If you haven't met, I think you've met Sam. And Grant is also here. So, Sam, I believe you have the rights to display again. Thanks for jumping in and presenting for us this evening.
No worries, and thank you so much to the entire committee for accommodating a conflict that I have. I do apologize. Any other night, I could hang out with you guys all night. So I will, if it's okay with the committee, I'll share my screen.
Please.
And I know Ben should have that set up. Great, thank you, Ben. And what I'm showing the group, if anybody was on last night's school building committee meeting, this is I'm going to give a condensed report out of the usual monthly report that we give to the school building committee. And I can expand upon it just based on any questions that might be out there. So I was going to just focus on a few key things, the project milestones, kind of where we are today, look at some images, most recently from the school, both inside and out, and then just touch briefly where we are on budget. I think most of the school committee members, maybe except for Jess, had been out in the last 30 days out on property, or 30 to 45 days. So I know folks have gotten a good kind of understanding of kind of the status of both the exterior and the interior. But just to kind of give people that macro look, as of January 1st, which is how we do a month to month on where we are from a completion standpoint. We just passed the 50% mark of completion based on the work in place. So that's based, and that's really tracking, against cost, total contract of Gilbane, and where we are in that entire contract. So, a pretty significant milestone, in as much that, we're kind of past that halfway point of dollars spent and work in place. It doesn't necessarily always tie to schedule, because if you think about the cost structure, we have a fair amount of work that'll happen after the building is delivered. So after August, September of this year of 21, with all the work that happens in the fields. So the two don't necessarily tie to each other, but I think it's just a good indicator. Some key things that are happening in the current months is, and I'm just going to flip to some pictures just to make it a little bit easier for folks to kind of visualize what's going on. Most of the exterior glazing on the project is complete at this point. And we've talked about this in previous meetings with the school building committee, as well as with some of you on the tour. The goal is to get the building kind of warm and dry for the winter, so that all the key trades could be working throughout the winter in the building to ensure that we could still meet schedule. So window glazing is ongoing, but up in above 90% complete. We have key kind of mechanical equipment startups happening in the next 30 to 60 days. We have we have millwork and casework that's going to be starting very soon. And then we have, various components like the auditorium that's really starting to take shape, some of the components of the kitchen that are really starting to take shape. So these pictures just give you a good snapshot. This is the west elevation. So really looking from the back of the existing building, looking east, and then this is looking from the field towards the east elevation of the building. And then here's your north and south elevation. So looking from the PCD property, and then really looking from the CTC building on the north side. And then on the interior, depending on when you've been in there, some of these pictures may look a little bit static, as some rooms have seen a lot of progress, and others, once you get to the board and the paint, things start to slow down as far as the visual progress in there. But we have a significant amount of work happening throughout the building. You can really start to see some of these public open spaces, the collaboration areas really starting to take shape, where you have that full view from the third floor up to the fourth, and up to the skylights above. Again, another look here in a less improved but same type of zone, where you're looking at that opening up between the third and the fourth floor. The greenhouse slab and underground utilities are in place, which will allow for that vertical construction to start probably in the spring. And then there's some significant areas where you're really starting to see things take shape. This is our library media center, which is on the west facing third and fourth floors. So you're really starting to see the detail of all the framing that's happening in this location. The auditorium really starting to take shape. This view doesn't show it, but the rake with all the stairs go up to the left. A lot of the ceiling work is in place. You can see the catwalk starting to be put in place, and a lot of the major infrastructure. Similarly, the student commons, which is also known as the cafeteria, the athletic field, really you can understand kind of how the track is laid out now, and the field within it. Although this is taken before the snow that we had last month. and then the halftime house. Just as a snapshot, in December and really into January and into February, we've had about 20 subcontractor companies on site consistently over the last month and a half to 2 months, and for the and for the near future. That represents about 220 workers a day on average out on property. And again, that's inside and outside of the building, and working across all those 20 trades. And that's going to kind of continue as we move through the winter and into the early spring, as we really start to get the interiors complete. Just a quick snapshot on budget, and I think a good tool to look at when we look at this. So we talked about being 56% complete with our, or excuse me, 52% complete with our overall work in place. When we look at that against the utilization of our contingency, which are really those kind of buckets of funds that are there to deal with unforeseen conditions, owner changes, anything in the field that wasn't included in the drawings. When you look at that ratio of being 52% complete, and then we look at some of the contingency buckets that we still have remaining in the project. So the owner contingency is something that's held by the ownership team and the owner's discretion. We still have just over 80% of that remaining value in place. The construction contingency that actually sits within the contractor's contract, and it's part of their guaranteed maximum price, is at about 88%. So we've only drawn down, call it 18% of the owner's contingency and about 12% of the construction contingency. The fact that we are 52% through the work and we're still holding pretty high levels of those contingencies, I think is a very positive position to be in. It does not mean that we don't have continued exposures throughout the project. As I said to the school building committee last night, the job of the OPM is to be relatively conservative and make sure that we protect all your buckets of funds to the best of our ability, so that the project comes in no worse than at budget and hopefully even a little bit under budget. And while we cannot predict where we'll be at the end of the project, I think these are very good indicators based on kind of our industry experience and how we would typically go through these projects. And the other thing too, I think to remember is that we've exposed a lot of the things that could represent hits against these contingency items. So underground work at the school itself, getting vertical and out of the ground with the actual building. Where we do continue to have exposure will be in the demolition and abatement of the existing building, and then all the site work that we have on the flip side of, on the front of the property as we kind of go through that. But we're encouraged by these numbers, and our job working with the district and the building committee is to ensure that, we protect these buckets of funds to the, to the highest standard, and make sure that anything that does come through here, which there are items, is well scrutinized, reviewed by the architect, the CM, and the OPM to ensure that those costs are legitimate, and then they go through their approval processes with the ownership team. So that's a high level snapshot. Joel, I'm happy to talk through any other items and/or answer questions if if there's specific questions from the committee.
Any questions from the committee members?
Through the chair.
Please.
Sam, I was amazed in the walkthrough that we did in November in the HVAC system, the brand new machines that were sitting back there, and I just like to get your opinion on the system itself. One of my questions is, how labor intensive is it? I know a lot of things are done remotely, but how many people do we need to operate a system like that? And when do you anticipate, when will it be turned on? I'm curious about, has it been tested yet, and when will it begin? Let's start there.
Sure, good questions, Charlie. So the system itself is obviously much more complicated than what's in the buildings today. You've advanced technology by decades on a lot of these facilities. Although in some of the other buildings within the district, you do have more modernized HVAC system. It is highly technological. So it is as much about the computer system running it as it is about the kind of the actual functional hardware that's on the ground. And I think that, and I know the school committee has talked about this in the past, the facilities team that will take over the building, it's going to be key that they understand these modern systems. They understand how to run the building management system, which is a highly integrated, software-based information system that will allow Tony and his team to scrutinize unit by unit throughout the building and understand if there's a troubleshooting item that they have to tackle, and/or there needs to be a different look at distribution, or even if somebody opens a window, this is going to be able to tell them, because that's going to tick up your humidity, which is a big problem to kind of contain the conditioning throughout the building. So it's going to take an extensive amount of training with the facilities team, and as that evolves. And then, it will require, I think the district to consider or look at the possibility of longer term kind of preventative maintenance contracts with vendors, either that they currently have, or you might go out to the street for those type of things. Just because of the level of sophistication, you need those third-party vendors to be a partner with you as the building goes forward. As far as, I'm forgetting your second question, Charlie. I apologize.
When will it be road
Yep.
tested?
So the testing of the units is tied to we could test the units probably, next month is what we're currently targeting. That's all going to be tied to switching over to permanent power. So what we don't want to do is fire up the units on the current temporary or the power that's currently feeding the site, because you want to make sure that exactly the amount of power that's coming into the building and it's going to get to those units. Right now we are targeting February. But again, that's going to be tied to National Grid kind of flipping the switch. And they've been working consistently through, really since the late summer into the fall to get provisions in place to allow that permanent power. And now we're just waiting on that turnover to happen, which we hope will happen in the next, I think, 4 to 6 weeks. And then they'll start to test that equipment, bring that equipment online. That'll go through several rounds of commissioning. So we have a commissioning agent that works directly for the district. And that agent is an independent third party that will set the standard for how all this equipment will perform and will continue to perform. And they'll hold the contractor to that standard. And that's part of the requirement, both with the state and just as building owners, that you want to have that sophistication as far as on your team to ensure that those things, the commission agents requirements, through a rigorous process.
And Charlie, just to add or remind the committee that that maintenance plan that is being developed, part of that is also the job description for that individual that would head up that team in the building, and that would come before us for approval, obviously, but that is part of what is being put together for us by that organization.
And Joe, on that point, is that that plan going to go through the building committee, or will that come directly to the school committee?
It doesn't need approval by the building committee,
Right.
Unless it will likely, and Sam, maybe speak to experience in other cases, but my expectation is that building committee would get visibility to it just to see if there were any, kind of red flags to say, hey, this is missing or whatever, which I don't foresee considering who we have putting it together. But then it's going to come just like other job postings, other jobs that are created. It's going to come to the school committee for review, discussion, and approval. And, and we can have the appropriate folks in place to answer any questions at that time.
Okay.
Yeah, I would see it definitely as I think the district is, especially Tony, Kathy, Craig are kind of at the forefront of that discussion. Obviously, leveraging the expertise that you do have on the school building committee, if folks think it's appropriate, I think will be useful. And look, that this process is meant to be beat up, picked apart, and make sure that it comes out with a byproduct that helps you guys move your process forward. So that's always going to be our goal at the end of the day.
Well, that's just that piece is a very critical piece to that building.
Agreed. Yeah. And Charlie, I would say often overlooked and not thought about soon enough.
Right.
So, I give a lot of credit to everybody who's been having the discussion that you can't talk about it early enough. Everybody focuses on delivery of the building because it's not unimportant, but it's just as important to think about, okay, what do we do with it once we have it?
Thank you.
Any other questions from the committee before we lose? I know, Sam, you have a stop at 7 roughly, or
Yeah.
hard stop-ish.
2 minutes, but I'll stay for as long as you guys need questions answered.
Any other questions? All right. Well, hearing no question, and obviously, if there's anything that pops up throughout the, days, weeks, or in between these meetings, the members of the school committee can reach out to myself, Mr. Cahoon, or Superintendent, Mr. Fiola, but just reach out and we'll get the information. I also want to bring to the attention, we have these photos, which thanks for that. I want to thank Ben Russell, for those that don't know, on the building committee Facebook page. Ben Russell did a drone and a walkthrough of the building using the narration of James Jordan from AI3 with that virtual tour. So, he basically mirrors that narration with actual video footage of the, so to speak, current state, if you will. I think it was taken probably when the snow was on the ground. So not, pretty recently, pretty much around the same time as these photos, I believe, Sam.
Yeah,
right.
It's a great tool for folks at least to grasp, progress who aren't on the ground every day, right? So we see that progress repeatedly, but I think for folks that maybe are checking in once a quarter or twice a year, depending on how our schedules are going for actual tours, the work that Ben's been doing, I think is invaluable, not only for this, but also just for the community to kind of see how progress is moving forward.
So again, yes, Facebook, East Providence Building Committee page, and you'll see an updated video, a recent video. So definitely thanks to Ben for doing that. And without anything else,
that's great.
Yes, and yes, Jim's voice will forever be part of East Providence school system history. So I thank you, Sam, for getting us in. I know you're double booked this evening, and but you're always available.
Yep.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a great night. So that will eliminate, or not eliminate, but handle item 9 on the agenda. So, Mr. Clerk, that puts us where?
That puts us on Director of Human Resources report by Cheryl Mamone.
Well, I think we've got to do, Kathy, did we interrupt you on?
Yes.
Yeah, I think I interrupted Kathy, so we'll back up a little bit.
Number three. The Legal Institute. Many of us attended the Legal Institute on November 30th, given by Dan Scanzio and his law firm. Dr. Bola, Celeste, Cheryl Mamone, and Craig Enos is going to give a little report to you on that, because it really went into the CARES Act and how we have to operate within that CARES Act that actually evaporated on December 31st, but also very important elements of Title IX. That event is sponsored by the Rhode Island Association of School Superintendents, as well as Rhode Island Association of Business Officials. Craig and I'm president-elect, he's president of his organization. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Bowler and Cheryl and Craig.
So basically, Superintendent, you said pretty much what I was going to say, that the Legal Institute was for all administrators. It was called so many letters because there are so many new changes that have letters, such as CBA, which the firm talked to us about collective bargaining, leave, FMLA, which everyone knows is the Family Medical Leave Act, and ADA. They also talked, and so the reason why these were important because of the pandemic and because of COVID and all the impacts the pandemic has had on districts and understanding laws in terms of leaves, in terms of quarantine, what we can and cannot do. As the superintendent said, he did do, the firm did do a whole big presentation on Title IX, which back in August, the district was supposed to have an updated Title IX policy, and Cheryl's going to talk a little bit about that. I think it's on the agenda tonight for the first read, and also where we were in terms of our work in the district around Title IX, how we have operated based on our training. Cheryl and I are trained Title IX coordinators, and where we are in terms of the information we learned from Ben and creating additional forms to help tighten up the work that we do when we engage in investigation. So I'm going to let Cheryl talk about some of the information about Title IX and leave.
Thank you, Dr. Bowler. Everyone. So one of the main action items that we have been working on in collaboration with our legal department is the new Title IX policy. So you will see the Title IX policy for your review this evening. The new policy that we're presenting to you has been developed and ensure that we're in compliance with the new Title IX laws. The Title IX policy that's before you is for a first read. It's been reviewed by our attorneys and has been vetted as complying with the new Title IX laws. Dr. Bowler and I are also in the process of developing procedural flow charts, as well as required forms for Title IX that are all new as part of the new regulations. Also, as well as new requirements pertaining to investigations and gathering information. So the good news is that we seem to have a lot of these elements in our work previously. Dr. Bowler and I, as she had mentioned, have both received training and certification through AAAD, which stands for the American Association for Access, Equity, and Diversity. We're both trained as affirmative action officers as well as investigators. In review of our former process, we were in compliance and had already been conducting our investigations using suggested guidelines, but we need to tweak the procedures and we need to tweak the forms, and we're working with our attorney to do that. So all forms, procedural flow charts will be discussed and vetted with our lawyers to make sure we're in complete compliance. And I don't know if Craig wants to add anything further on his side.
No, I think you both covered it quite nicely.
Okay. I would have gone further into the CARES Act, but since December 31st, it was not renewed. We handled it in accordance with a collective bargaining agreements, and but we are over that now and going by contract.
And we should also say that right now, Title IX may have more revisions when a new administration comes in. That was also part of our training, that what you see before you there may be some changes to the process and maybe possibly to the policy. But right now, we need to have the policy in place.
Right. So it's there for you for a first read and has been legally vetted.
I want to take this opportunity to thank Cheryl and the Human Resource Administrative Assistants in that department. That CARES Act was there to work through when it came out. And of course, it came out very suddenly, and we had to abide by all of the criteria of the CARES Act. So it was an extremely time-consuming process to follow through with that, you know, who was quarantining, why were they quarantining, and how long, and all of that. So they had to keep all of those records for us, and they did a great job. And especially in the time where all the school departments were receiving those fraud complaints on unemployment. They had to deal with that as well. And due to their quick response on that, the districts did not have to pay a lot of money. We caught it very, very early, thanks to Karen Underwood and Cheryl in that department. And so that was all going on from September until the end of December. So that was quite a feat. So thank you, Cheryl, and please thank the girls in the HR department too.
I will, Superintendent, and thank you. Thank you, school committee.
All right, any questions on any of that? All right, the next item on the agenda is an update on semester reentry plan. Dr. Ferran could not be with us this evening, but I do have her report. So her report is, first of all, in the first semester, we had 2,704 students that were on distance learning. 958 of them were from the high school, 705 middle, 1,041 from the elementary. Now, second semester, we're going to have 2,260 on distance learning, 840 from the high school, 600 from the middle, and 820 from the elementary. We have about 450 more students are returning this semester. 220 of them are in the elementary grades. So we've already started to plan for the second semester. We're looking for student desks. Mr. Fiola is already on that. And we're going to keep to the same requirements that we had the first semester with the 6 feet distancing, the cleaning schedules, because that all seemed to work out very well for us. So we're going to continue with what we have done, but we will have that many more students, 450 more returning in person. So I'll have Sharon send you that report so that you have these numbers. We can upload it and send it out to you tomorrow. Okay. Next.
Superintendent?
Yes.
Question through the chair. I have been asked, and this seems about as good a time as any, about changes in the second semester in staffing. Are you planning to be changing personnel, or will the students have the same teachers in general in the second semester that they had in the first semester?
I'm not going to say definitely yes. With the increase in elementary, Mr. Chonis, it could mean that they will be back in their classroom with their original teacher. So there could be some change grade level wise with more students coming in, less on distance learning. I would probably have more information on that as we move forward.
So the changes would be in the elementaries?
It would be in the elementary, not in the middle and high school. We don't expect any issues. We can accommodate the middle and high school. Elementary, you could see.
And does that include special needs?
Oh, no, no. Special needs are the Spear and Promound teachers. That'll all be the same.
That'll all be the same?
It'll all be the same, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Through the chair. Can we just stay updated on the buses situation? Because with 250 more elementary students, that I'm assuming that we would have to do more buses. I don't know. I don't know how many kids right now are taking the bus. It doesn't look like there's quite a lot. No, but I think we just need to be, yeah.
Diana will be working with Dr. Yeah, absolutely, Jessica. Thank you. We will. We will.
And, can I parlay off that just briefly? Diana, I have to give you a call. I know you had a call from, I believe Mr. Brandel had this resident call you as well about a bus location near Hennessy. And I was contacted as well. So I will speak with you. I'll probably give you a shout. I'll try to give you a shout tomorrow. So just, yeah. That's all I got. Thank you.
You have the winter sports and schedule. It was under communication. And lastly, Mr. Beauchesne, you asked for school activities at the middle and high school. And Sharon have uploaded those activities that are going on in those schools to you late this afternoon. I hope you all have them so you can see what is going to be going on. As I told you, when we talked, the CRP has been approved, so Title I monies for many of the after-school programs are there. We told Myron J. Francis if they needed any monies to run after-school programs, since they're not Title I, we do have monies available for Myron Francis to any program. So you can see the list of programs. And that's it for my report this evening.
I will be asking for another list, just a heads up, in February to see, because I think I took some people in asking you for this list may have maneuvered some, it looks like some, go get 'ems. So I would really like to see how those go get 'ems working in February.
All right, perfect.
We have some people that do not have children, who do not live in East Providence, who do not drive around the city. We have a lot of kids outside, a lot of kids congregating outside and have nothing to do. It's happening everywhere.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
However, when I can do something about it in a seat that I'm in right now, we need to do something. We need to do something. We have the money. Let's get some people and get these kids active doing something other than finding the nearest house to all hang out at, who doesn't have anybody home, or playing outside, which I'm all for, but playing outside with no masks on all together, it's just, we need to get something to do. So I appreciate everyone doing their part here really much.
Okay. And that's it for my report.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Next item is the Director of Human Resources report by Cheryl Lamone.
Thank you.
Good evening. This evening, we have no resignations, no retirements. I have one leave of absence, Lee Ann Walker Beard, paraprofessional at Martin Middle School, effective 1/4/21, and that would be for the remainder of the school year.
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
A motion by Mr. Brandel. Do we have a second?
Okay.
A second. Sorry.
Yeah, Mr. Shane makes second on that. Motion second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that carries.
We have one termination this evening, paraprofessional at Waddington Elementary School, effective 1/13/2021. It's an expiration due to the expiration of the workers' comp for our district. I won't read out the name of the termination.
Right.
You have
and thank you for that, and obviously for the new members, right? So we don't read those names, but I do appreciate, Cheryl. I was going to ask about just the the background on that, and the dotting of the I's and so forth to make sure that we're in compliance. So
yes, we are.
okay. Without any other questions, do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Ms. Boshane. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Azanero. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item, please.
The next item is the Director of Finance report by Craig Enos.
Good evening, everyone. Usually I have a quick report for you. However, tonight will be a little bit longer than usual, as I'm going to be reviewing 3 fiscal years. We are 8 weeks into the new fiscal year, and we're off to a good start. There are a couple of line items that I would like to bring to your attention for your review. First, in the 53,000 series, professional and technical services, account 53222, you can see where we budgeted $415,000. And to date, 2 months in, we've already expended $250,000 of that line item. This account includes all of the web-based programs that we are using in all of our schools. And all of the renewals for the software usually expire on 10/31. So that's why you see a big jump for that expense.
That's the same last year, Craig. It sounds like, right? I just recall getting that explanation.
Correct. Yep. But I just wanted to.
Timing of it. Yeah. No. Thank
Correct.
you.
Yep. And then next, in the next section in 54,501, school construction. So that is expenses that are left over from the White Neck Elementary secure entrance project that didn't come in a timely manner. So that's why those expenses are there. If you go over to page 2, in the 55,000 series, other services, just a quick reminder about the tuition line items, 55,630 through 55,650. The fiscal year 21 year-to-date expenditures, that amount represents the encumbered amount for the year. Those are 3 account line items where we give you the amount that we anticipate expending for the whole year. As time goes on throughout the year, we usually do a midpoint review to see where we are. We review that with special education, and if we need to add more funds into certain line items or not. But just a reminder that we haven't, as in the private school placements, we haven't spent 3.8 yet. But we do anticipate that over the course of the fiscal year that we are going to be spending that amount of money. We're in good shape so far, knock on wood. We haven't had any surprises come in for those line items. And then finally, in the 57,000 series for the property, you can see for account 57,309 tech hardware, the $179,200, that represents the year 2 expense of the Apple lease that we have for the MacBooks that we secured for all the teaching staff last year. So we're in year 2 of that. And then just the line below for the tech software, that is all of the software that we use to run the hardware that is within East Providence schools. Okay. Before I move on to fiscal year 20, are there any questions regarding fiscal year 21?
Craig?
Nope. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Craig, just one question. I know when you were talking about the expenses that carried over, when we do a project like that, is it typical on a contract like that to have a statute of limitations, if you will, on when the vendor can bill for that, so that it doesn't impact the future fiscal?
And most vendors are really good about that
Most
billing.
of them want their money.
Correct. And what I actually am able to do for the housing aid piece is I had already submitted for the reimbursement for the full portion of it. Okay. So we're already getting money in for it. So but a statute for that, I'm not sure.
Okay. Okay.
Yep. Okay. So I just want to move a couple columns over to fiscal year 20. As I've discussed in the past, we had submitted, with the assistance of Wayne Barnes, who works for the city, the expenses that we had that related to COVID-19 starting in March. Approximately, almost $250,000 was related to the school bus delivery of lunches when we were delivering the lunches to all the bus stops. And then the other portion, about $175,000, had to do with all the custodial and PPE supplies and the technology supplies that we purchased. To date, our requests for the 75% reimbursement for those expense have been denied at this particular point. We were only reimbursed approximately $8,800 for custodial and cleaning supplies during that time frame. Despite our efforts to provide all the documentation that they wanted, and Wayne Barnes is working hard for us. He really looks at any way that we can provide any additional information, laws. We have submitted all of that. But I'm not quite sure that we're going to be successful in this endeavor at this particular point. And if we are, it's going to be months coming on down the road. So in an effort, because we do need to start wrapping up the fiscal year and to come up with a number as to where we are going to end, we decided to record those expenses into the general fund. If we get reimbursed for some of those expenses at a later date, that's great. And we're certainly not going to give up the fight. However, for the year end, we definitely need to move forward. So with that, so what we did was we added the $250,000 into the transportation line item 55111. And then for the purposes of getting, because we wanted to get this report out, as well as trying to give you some type of a number for the year end, we took the balance for the miscellaneous cleaning supplies, the PPE, and we put that down into the very bottom into account number 58901, miscellaneous expenses. We are going to, over the next month, we're going to be moving those numbers back up into the appropriate line items, but the stack of invoices is like this. And so we really need to take our time to go through it. But I definitely wanted to be sure that we were showing the expenses that we had. So if we were to look at fiscal year 20 expenditures, the unaudited expenses for fiscal year 20 minus our school construction expenses, the funds that we use for the capital fund and that we get reimbursed from housing aid. The unaudited expenses are $85,379,632. If we go to the bottom section of the financial report where it talks about the revenue, our unaudited revenue for the fiscal year is $86,673,621. So our projected year end for fiscal year 20 as of today is $1,293,988 to the good. So a very good place for us to be. This number is not final because we still do have expenses that are coming in. So next month, you'll see a slight change to that. But I know that I had said last month that I would give you a sense of where we were ending the fiscal year. And so we're just under that 1.3 million mark. This number primarily, is really a result of savings that were realized from areas in transportation from the spring, as well as the substitute salary line item.
And it's also absorbing those COVID expenses.
Correct.
That
Correct.
would not have typically,
Correct.
So we took on the burden of the COVID, and then we had some savings due to COVID, and the net of it is we're at 1.3. And I'm sorry.
Yep. No, that's right. And I really just want to say too, I know in speaking with my colleagues, a lot of the districts are also getting denied for their COVID costs from FEMA as well. So we are not alone.
Greg,
Okay.
This doesn't have anything to do with the $50 million that Gina put for the school. Is that correct?
Correct. Correct.
That's not that money.
Correct. This is just the general fund.
Is
Do you know-
anybody in the state getting the money?
So are we talking about the second pot?
I'm
Or
talking about like all the money that we use for the buses and custodial PPE money, the money that we got denied. Are people getting denied across the state?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. The where they seem to be focusing their work on is reimbursing the municipalities for overtime and expenses related to police, fire, and rescue.
To open the schools?
From what I hear, not for the schools, but for events that happen throughout the cities and towns.
So
That's what
where?
I was
Okay.
going to ask how the city fared with their submissions versus the schools, and I think you just kind of answered that.
Yeah.
They fared better than we did.
As every other place did.
Right.
So.
And I know, because wasn't there some, I know that when it's my understanding that when like City Hall went on some kind of almost like a flex schedule or whatever, there was a financial benefit for that.
So where did the money go? The $50 million that Gina Raimondo set aside for the school.
So some of those funds already came to us through the ESSER grant and as well as the supplemental impact education aid.
But the ESSER fund is different. That's out of the CARES Act money. It's separate from the 41 million funding for elementary schools. I mean, I remember speaking with you. I wrote my stuff down.
Yep.
So we got two different money pots going on. And so you have the 50 million out of the 1.2 million in CARES Act money is separate from the 41 million and the funding of the ESSER fund. So how did we not get any money? Like, I don't say any money. How did we not? And I'm sure they're fighting for this. I just need to understand, if we fed children that would normally have not been fed, and we
were the only ones. Yep.
I know. And what we did was absolutely amazing. And I thank everyone for it. And the idea of bringing it to their houses as close as possible was above and beyond. I know districts that just said, come to one location, good luck. And on my way to work, I'd see all those little kids walking down the main street trying to get their food. But I don't understand, if this was for buses, if this was for PPE, if this was for stuff so that we could actually open school, which is what our whole purpose of this was, to open school and get students in school, where is all this money? I don't know. I guess I will be asking Lieutenant Governor at the next meeting. Because you got to be kidding me. These are children. You're muted.
You muted, Kathy.
You're going to ask the Lieutenant Governor, did you say?
When he becomes governor.
Oh, okay. All right.
Dan.
He's gonna say we don't have a Lieutenant Governor yet. Yeah. Okay.
But I don't understand. Like, these are children. These are school districts. This is I mean, she came. I watch all her meetings. I mean, Catherine, I always call like $50 million, and then we have ESSER fund that has a whole nother set of money.
So did I hear? I don't remember hearing the answer to your question though, Jess, as far as where that 50 million is going.
I don't know.
I mean, we can't answer that. We don't, where that 50 million for school districts in the state of Rhode Island went. We did get some monies, as Craig said, in the ESSER, that part of that grant. Okay. We mentioned that to you. What were the two numbers? The 1 point, what was it?
So the ESSER, our portion of ESSER was about 1.1 million. And then the supplemental impact aid was around 1.5.
Yeah.
Or so.
And that did or did not come out of the 50?
My understanding is that it all comes out of the big pot.
Which is, okay, but.
The 50 million.
Thank you, yeah.
It's all one pot with different grants.
Now, we are going to get another big stimulus package. And the money coming to schools is going to be 3 to 4 times as much as we received the first time. And those
Which is easy to say when they short you on the first time.
And it is going to be, which you're going to be very happy about, is for academic achievement. We are to use it for things like extended school year and after school activities and summer school programs and intervention programs, which is a very, very good thing. And so we're just waiting to hear on that. But we could get as much as Craig said, what, maybe $4 million to put towards that. And we'll need it because we do have to play catch up.
And those new funds will go until September of 23. So you'll have 2 years to use all those funds.
And Craig, you won't be offended if I wait until I see it in writing from the state.
Not at all. Not at all. Not at all. So are there any other questions, or can I move on to the audit? Great. I'm going to move on. So in your possession tonight is the fiscal year 19 audit that was completed by Bloom Shapiro. You have 2 reports. So one is the audit report, and then we have the single audit report that we are required to do because we have federal expenditures of over $1 million. In terms of internal control reporting, there were no material weaknesses, only suggestions regarding controls for bank reconciliations and journal entries. The third item was relating to closing out the fund trial balances in a timely fashion. Mike Hubert has already set up the procedures for that. And so we have rectified that issue and corrected it going forward. For the federal grants, there was only one item of note regarding providing financial statements in a timely manner. We keep making progress towards this. Sometimes we feel like we are chasing our tails, but however, we have developed a plan and we're trying to stick to it. And so that hopefully this issue will not appear on the single audit going forward. Going into the audit report, there are 2 numbers that I wanted to bring to your attention. First would be on page 15 of the audit report of the bigger book, right? Page 15, and I'm looking at the second column, which is entitled School Unrestricted Fund. It's the second column from the left. If you look all the way down to the bottom, it says that for the school unrestricted fund, the total fund balances at the end of fiscal year 19 is $2,126,695. These are the funds that we use for the capital improvement projects. This number did go down compared to the previous fiscal year. It was a little bit over 5 million for fiscal year 18. But during fiscal year 19, we did some big projects. We did the roof at Riverside. We did the roof at Kent Heights. We did the external envelope project at Silver Spring. So we were drawing down from that balance to pay for those projects. And then what we do is we get every June, I fill out the housing aid forms and we get reimbursed for those projects every October and April over a course of a number of years, depending upon the cost of the project. So that's our total fund balance, okay? The other number that I know that is important to you is on page 38 of the audit report. Page 38, section 6, which is about halfway down the page. Interfund balances and transfers. Due to, due from. So the fifth line down, it says school unrestricted fund is the receivable fund. So that's our fund, has to receive those funds, which is now in the general fund for the city, the payable fund. And you will see that the total amount in that due to, due from account is $8,009,560. You may recall from last year that the due to, due from account had $6,513,545. The increase for this year is primarily due to grant reimbursements coming in from the Department of Ed and landing in the city account prior to October 31, about 1.5 million. That 1.5 million didn't get transferred to our account until the following week. So
can I pause you, Craig?
What?
I'm sorry. Can I pause you just to kind of
Sure.
make sure we're on the same page? So we're talking about the funds coming in, but again, in our balance sheet, in the fiscal report that you get, these numbers are already recorded as
right.
being
That's
in our
all,
ownership.
Correct. Correct.
This
Remember,
is simply
it's cash.
Yeah.
This is just it's just
Right.
cash.
Thank
So we can see, and that following the first week in November, the city transferred those grant reimbursements to us, but it's just timing wise, it just didn't land right. So that's why we had the jump from 6.5 million up to 8 million, but the following week it went right back down. And then plus you will recall that the city during the fiscal year already paid us 1/4 of that 6.5 million. So we've already received 1.6 million in change into our account to help to bring that due from down. Okay.
So we received that 1/4 and this additional
grant money. Correct.
Money.
Yep. Correct. All right. And then lastly, the only other item in the audit report that I just wanted to bring to your attention is our OPEB, which is on page 72. OPEB, for those that aren't aware, stands for other post-employment benefits. These are funds that we are required to have set aside to offset health insurance costs for retirees in the future. And so it takes a look at the liability that we have. Currently, our OPEB is funded at 41.4% for fiscal year ending October 31, 2019, which is good. That's a good shape. We're definitely, we want that to move up and to grow. We were able to make $100,000 payment into the OPEB account for this year, which was fantastic because we haven't been able to do that in the last 2 years. Because it's important that we really continue to save for the future to take care of the retirees, so we're not drawing down funds from the general fund for that. And then just to remind folks that that fund is managed, the city has their fund there too. It's managed with the Rhode Island Interlocal Risk Management Trust. So that's not a fund that we handle. It's something that they handle for us. Whew. That's all I have to report for this evening. Thank you.
May I just ask a question? And I promise it will not start with due to or to from.
Thank you.
Well, I just have just a plain English, like the easiest thing you could find in this, maybe not, and I apologize. When you go to page, I don't have a page number, towards the back. Oh wait, maybe it does have a page. Oh yeah, it's 94, 93. When you have a list of all those school restricted funds.
Yep.
Okay.
So, yep. So those
are they active right now?
So those are all the federal grants.
Okay.
And so a lot of those, so those are the federal grants, those are the state grants.
Yeah.
So you'll see some of them like the titles 1 through 4, those are all covered. Perkins, that's covered by the CRP that Dr. Bowler does. We have the fresh fruits and vegetables that covers, that's for the school lunch program,
Right.
as well as the equipment assistance grant. So, so some of these,
Okay.
so some of these are still very much active. Some of these, if you look in the following pages, it gives you the balance, so that some of these they could have been around for many years, and sometimes people don't do much with them after a while. And so, but that money is still there. It's, that account is still
right.
there.
So hence why I'm going to ask you right now.
Yep.
So why do we keep things open like the East Providence High School gym? Money. Or if this is ours, I'm asking a question from somebody who is the president of a nonprofit organization for middle school sports. We've got 3 line items for middle school sports, or 3 funds: sports donations, sports middle school, legislative middle school sport.
Yep. And those.
I'm just curious to that's something like, I know the Title I, I know the idea. I mean, safe and drug-free schools, like permanent school fund. All our schools are permanent, I hope. But I'm just curious to where these funds go, and if we have money in them, like, because I saw one was, I don't know. I guess I'm just asking.
Sure. So how about let me put together a comprehensive list for you, and give you the status of each of those funds. Okay.
I'm more, but I'll give you the list. I'm not looking for you to go through this whole thing. Like, you know me, playground donation. Love to know what's in that. Like, let's go. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. Okay, thank you.
Yep, you got it.
Thank you for your time.
Anytime. Thank you very much.
The next item is the Policy Committee report by Jessica Bouchain.
So I'm just gonna pass this on to the people who generated it. So Cheryl, if you want to go for it, Dr. Bowler, whoever,
As I had mentioned, this is the policy. We worked with Ben Scungio. This is what he is suggesting as a policy, working even with other districts. And this will incorporate all the changes within Title IX that we have to take into consideration and to be in compliance. In addition, we are scheduling a meeting on Friday. We are going to be looking again at the building use policy. I've sent that on to legal as well, asking him about some of the suggestions that came out of the last policy committee that we wanted to incorporate. We had a question on whether or not we needed aspects in the policy, whether or not they were a profit or nonprofit, whether or not we needed 2 policies for that. I'm waiting for answers on that from Ben, but anything that we have brought forward to you or will bring forward to you will be vetted by the attorneys.
and Mr. Morey is also working with us on that and is getting us some numbers. So we will keep you updated on all that.
Yes, Mr. Amori's plan is to give us some numbers after this week. He said he will have some more based on what some of his colleagues are doing in other high schools and other school buildings.
That's all I have.
Thank you.
So to our new members, basically on the policy process, so that's the first read, which is when we would respond with any suggestions for edit, concerns, questions that could go back. And then if we agree on those edits and changes, when it comes back for a second read, that's where it's voted on and approved and implemented. So this would be the first read. So again, if you see something, say so, you know, even within the next day or so, you know, just raise it up so that Ms. Beauchene can make it part of her second read and approval presentation. Would that be accurate, Jess? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and definitely when you get the packet, if you see something over the weekend that you don't understand, this was drawn up totally by people above my pay grade. But some policies literally are you know, brought, we do it, we throw our opinions out there, we throw our knowledge out there, and then I bring it to you guys for first read. And my whole plan is that everyone gives me some information and I bring that. This is not, you know, a one person show. This is whoever has the knowledge and who like to, you know, to bring it together. And that's why this building policy, I have a feeling, is going to take a lot of knowledge from a lot of different people in order for it to work out the way that we need it to for the new high school. And then, yeah, subsequently
Because
the
we
rest of the
even
school.
talked about an aspect about you know, the culinary and using the restaurant, and if people were going to want to book that aspect with our CTC students as the caterers, you know, what would we charge for things to that effect? So we're looking at all of that, and we're hoping to meet this week to get a little further on that. But as far as the policy for Title IX goes, if you could take a peek at that, if you have questions, you can email me, Jessica, and we'll try to answer those. And it may be things we didn't even think of.
Yeah, you could email Cheryl on that. I'm going to be honest with you. I read it and I understand it, but
Okay.
Thank you.
I like that's a legal thing.
You know, and we weren't taking a lot of leave with this policy because it is, you know, pretty vetted, and the lawyers have been working on that for all of their districts. So we've done this in a collaboration. Thank you.
Got any other questions or discussion? Next item.
The next item is discussion items.
Okay.
So there's nothing you want on your building committee?
We did that. We
Okay.
moved that forward with Sam.
Right. Nothing else. Right, the discussion items. The first discussion item is on testing sites. East Providence is one of the school districts that is going to participate in testing of our faculty and our students. We have submitted to RIDE the paperwork that we are interested. We are waiting for them to send us back what they call a survey form. And once we get this survey form back, we can send 6 people to training. The training is about 45 minutes. It's an online piece, but you have to go right now in person, although I was told they're developing a virtual, which would be much better. So we're waiting for that. As soon as we get that, we will send our people for that training. Now, those 6 people become the trainers of the trainers. So those 6 people can then train other people. For example, we can't send every nurse in the district down for the training on the day we're scheduled. So we're going to send one nurse, and then she'll come back, and we're going to send, you know, a variety of people. Tony Fiola, Diane Wallace is going, several people. Jessica has volunteered to help us out there. So, and then we're going to train other people. Now, the BINEXT test is the test we'd be administering. And we've already talked to something about procedures and how we're going to approach it. We had a meeting this afternoon. This BINEXT testing gives instant results in 15 minutes. Anyone 12 or older will be able to swab their own nose. And the person there just has to watch, okay, and observe to make sure they do the number of swabs, etc. And then they put this swab into a container in a bag. We have to, label all that, and we have to have a person who will then upload that name of that person into a computer. If the test is positive, we are going to have our nurses call the parent of the student. And if the test is negative, all we have to do is list it as a negative in the computer. So only those that are positive will be called by a nurse. Now, in the middle and high school, most of those students are 12 and older. In the elementary school now, anybody that's below the age of 12, the trained person has to swab the student's nose. So we think that there may be parents that would want to be there. And we're doing this for faculty as well. We're doing our faculty first, and then we're going to do our athletes as well. Greg and Maury and I have a conversation on that, and then we're going to be in the schools. Now, in the elementary schools, we'll set them up at the various elementary schools, and we will set a date and times for that. And there is a permission slip that the Rhode Island Department of Health gives us that we have to send out to parents. We can post it online. Parent can download it, but it has to be signed, or we can have a hard copy for them available as well. Any parent, it's completely voluntary on the part of students, completely voluntary. And this test is only for students and staff that are asymptomatic. And we'll be sending out something to that effect as soon as we can send out our dates. So if you are symptomatic, you shouldn't be in school. That's faculty or student. So this is just random testing of students in district to see if a student or a faculty member is asymptomatic. But because they feel in many cases that's what's happening, there's someone asymptomatic in the group and therefore, contagious. So this is what the Rhode Island Department of Health is trying to see, those asymptomatic people. It's a very, very simple process, and we are happy to do it. We have all the necessary, as I said, information as far as permission slips. Now, because we are a working community in East Providence, and I talked with Diane Wallace and Tony about this today, and Cheryl, we were talking about it. We are going to extend the hours in each one of the schools for nighttime. So if, number one, a parent would like to come with their child, because I'm sure there are a lot of children that don't like someone sticking something up their nose. And I can understand that after going for 3 tests. I just want you to know that. So we're going to give that parent, the opportunity, and, if that parent works, to come at night. And so we're going to offer it at each one of the schools for a couple of hours, one night the week we do the testing, for parents to be able to come with their child if they want them tested. It's only for the students as well. It's not for parents, teachers and students only. Any questions about the BINEX testing? And as I said, as soon as I have the dates, we have an informational sheet that we will send out to everybody. We will post the permission slip online, as well as have hard copies for everyone to access, and it's voluntary. Any questions? And then we'll look at, do we want to do it once a month? And with our athletes, Greg and I are talking, do we want to do it once a week? They're very concerned about the athletics because of the spread. The volleyball and basketball is inside, it's in a gym. They're very, very concerned about that, as I am. I don't know, I feel like I'm rolling a rock up the hill with that, but I understand the need and the want. But I'm going to give you an example. Hendrickens hockey team has already been quarantined, the entire team. Okay, one kid tested positive during tryouts, entire team quarantined. So, we're expecting that. We're expecting some issues with that. So we're going to be sort of proactive with that and athletics. So, or we're talking about when they do an away game, when they come back, test the athletes. So we're in conversation with Greg, and the athletic trainer is one of the people that is going to go for the training as well. So she'll be available to them. The Binex test, we have to pick up ourselves at the Civic Center. They provide us with a drop-off or a hazardous waste pail where everything is thrown into, and then we dispose of it. We send it down there and it's disposed of properly, but we have to pick up our own. And they're readily available to school districts. We were going to run one big event, like one day into the night, but I think doing it individually at the schools and opening that night time, I think our parents would be more comfortable going to their own school, especially the elementary parents, rather than coming. And that'll help with crowd control as well. So any questions regarding that anyone has? All right, the next item on there is vaccinations. Right now we're in phase 1 of the vaccinations. I had Sharon send you an email that I drafted myself that I would like your support on. Teachers are in phase 2. We heard that phase 2 may not start till the end of March. Yesterday, we heard that stage 2 may not start till the end of April, beginning of May. Teachers and all educational staff are in stage 2. I want to make a push because I feel strongly that all educational personnel, now I'm talking about our maintenance, our custodians, our paraprofessionals, our administrative assistants, our teachers, our administrators in close contact with children, should be vaccinated in phase 1. I applaud the people that are being vaccinated now. I have no issues with the first round of vaccinations in phase 1, but I think teachers, educational staff need to be included in that phase 1. You know, when you talk about a pre-K, K, and 1, you try your hardest to keep them 6 feet apart. Do you really think that happens? And do you really think those teachers, they're in close contact with those children, our teachers? I see it when I go into the buildings. So I really do feel that there is a need for that. Our numbers are ticking up in regards to students contracting the disease. In the state, our numbers are high. I just feel that teachers deserve, and educational staff, I keep saying teachers, but I really mean everybody in the educational realm. And I would appreciate your support. I'm going to send that to the governor. And I'm going to send it to Dr. Alexander Scott. And there is also a committee that I'm going to send it to from RIDE, the EDOC committee. And I do have union support. The NEA is strongly supporting this as well. Now, AFT, I don't have AFT. This is NEA is supporting this movement. Vaccinations, we have our lawyer getting ready with a policy on vaccinations. I feel that in order for this to happen, that vaccinations will have to occur in the school districts. And many of us over the course of time have gone to school districts and received vaccinations. I remember taking my children to schools to receive vaccination. And we have the capacity in East Providence to do that with our nurses in an organized manner. And I feel we can do it. I think there's a problem, I think there's somewhat of a problem with the vaccine itself and the delivery into the state. I'm not sure what the holdup is. People are saying, let's not hold that second vaccine. Let's keep vaccinating people because we're getting so many per week into the state. Is it 14,000 per week, I believe, into the state of Rhode Island? But they're saving the second vaccine. So when a person is ready, well, maybe they need to use that second vaccine and continue to vaccinate more people. Or is it the capacity to give the vaccination, which I think is more of a reality. And I think we would be able to, as a district, to meet the demand for our district if that happened. So that's my spiel on vaccinations. Any questions? All right, so do I have your support on that as a school committee?
So I was gonna ask you just that. I don't see anything as an action item or a resolution or anything of that nature. So you're just looking for moral support. I mean, you know,
Exactly, just for moral support, just so I can say the East Providence School Committee supports my actions, my letter, that's all. Mhm.
Right, you definitely have my moral support.
Thanks, Max. Thank you. Thank you, thank you.
I have no
You
problem.
have mine, and if someone answers your letter, will you let me know? Because I've had one there now for a couple of weeks. I haven't gotten any response except for someone who just, I think, just auto responds.
Okay. Thank you,
Yeah,
Charlie.
my support as well.
Thanks, Jenny.
Mhm.
Right. Thank you
I
very
know
much.
Charlie. Yeah, I know Charlie. I heard Charlie
I said thank you.
express as well, and so
Good.
yeah,
Good job.
And I'd
that's
like to know
fine.
why ours does not align with the CDC's. I haven't figured that out either. Like our vaccinations do not align with what the CDC recommends.
They don't, right, because they recommend the teachers, right. It does not align with the CDC. I forgot to mention that, right. You're absolutely right. And I
I
just,
happen to be in a job where I believe I'm the only one that has to face people that don't wear masks. My other job, like we're the only people that don't, we wear a mask, but the people don't have to wear one. And we're not even on the list.
see,
Like, I don't even know when we're on the list. And we are, I believe, the only profession that right now in the state of Rhode Island, you come face to face with someone who does not have to wear a mask.
unbelievable. I
So
know.
if, like I said, I support it 100%. And if you have, if you need us to come up with something, I'd be happy to work with somebody on doing so.
Okay, thank you very much. Next on the agenda is the high school schedule. I've been working closely with the high school leadership team and the principal, Toby Gibbons, and they have finally developed a 4x4 block scheduling for next year. I am meeting with them for a final review of it on Thursday. And I believe that we do have the approval of all of the high school in regards to this schedule. Now, this 4x4 schedule, what it will do for us, it increases the number of minutes in each period of the day. And what it will do is also allow for internships either before school or after school, so students can leave and have a period of time where they can do an internship. So I'll have more, and I'll have the high school come and present it to you in February, if that's okay. I just wanted to let you know that this is happening. It is a good thing. It is a positive thing. It's what we've been hoping for, because the schedule we have now is just not feasible for the new high school and for certain courses. So I'll come back to you with that and have high school here to go through the schedule with you. Okay. Next on the agenda is negotiations. We talked about that. We have a letter in there already from the teachers union. I would expect that we're going to have follow-up letters for the other unions. So I'm going to ask the chairman if he at some point would like to make appointments to those committees and how he would like to do that. So I just like to reinforce that with negotiations. We really need to begin to look at that. Okay.
So if I may on that, what I was thinking in one of the committee's feedback on this was, I think it would make sense if we met with superintendent and Mr. Scungio and an executive to kind of do an overview of where we're sitting with these contracts, and maybe with some of the goals and so forth that the district is looking to achieve as we go into this. And I think that will give us some perspective to where the skill sets might lie and who might want to be involved in that process. So if the committee is in agreement with that idea, then we could potentially pick an evening next week to do an executive, virtual, obviously, so to make availability a little easier depending on schedule.
Through the chair.
Yes, please.
I just a couple of questions, Joel. And this ties into some of your opening remarks at the beginning. And I don't know if everybody that's watching now was watching then, but the negotiations, once we roll into that, and I don't yeah, I think next week is fine. You could pick a night and I'll be on the virtual meeting. Will these negotiation meetings be Zoom meetings? Or are they going to be in-person meetings? I'm asking a question now.
That I don't know. I would, once we establish who's going to be on those committees, I would imagine availability will weigh in on that to determine the best way to execute those meetings. Number of people. I mean, I know, again, my experience with the teachers last go round, there was quite a few in the group. So, virtual, may suit if that's going to be the numbers set up. So I think that's going to be a case by case. Unless superintendent, in speaking with any of the bodies, has heard otherwise.
Well,
No, I
a lot
haven't.
of that goes to, Joel, what you said. For example, if our next meeting in February is a hybrid, okay, and you said that might be a hybrid in February, correct?
Right. Yeah, that's the goal, yes.
Okay. When will that decision be made, for example? I'm asking the question, when will the committee decide, or when will you decide that it's a hybrid for the February meeting?
All right, so two different topics in my opinion, right? So the format of the negotiations will be dependent on the two parties wanting to, how they want to come together. As far as the February meeting, it is my understanding that this body would prefer to meet in person with as many people as, those that want to attend. So the only thing that I was waiting for was for us to get a confirmation from IT and facilities that we can execute the audio so that it's consistent and clear, so that anybody in the room and anybody that is virtual is receiving the same amount of information. That's my, I'm hopeful that they'll come back and say, yep, we figured it out and we're good to go. And that's the only thing that.
Well, my questions are about process. That's all. The process as to the negotiations. Where would they be held? Our meeting in February, where will that be held?
Well, negotiations were started before, Charlie.
Yeah, I understand that.
And we did the Zoom. We went virtual at that time. So I'm going to say, because you're going to have a lawyer that's going to be a new and introducing a new person to this, and Joel was mentioning the teachers usually have quite a large committee, to go someplace 6 feet apart for everybody and try to negotiate that. I'm not sure. So I would recommend that we start with Zoom for negotiations at this point. Even for myself, I'm not comfortable really going into a large group at this point. If it were a smaller group, yes.
Well, if we had Buy Next Now, we could all just take the test.
Yeah, we could take the test too.
And I'm not saying everyone, but I agree. Yeah. I think I don't know where Charlie's going with this, but I want to say to have somebody from a leadership, the leadership person there from each, it is hard to negotiate over a Zoom. I'm not going to lie. I do think it probably would be, but I mean, to have a couple people in a room, just like the CTC, that big room, you're all spread out. I'm not saying everybody, but
I think weren't the negotiation meetings also posted just like our regular school committee meetings?
Yes. And then
I had a conversation with Ben Scungio and he was posting the negotiation meetings. So, yeah. I mean, that's got to figure into the planning and the scheduling of meetings.
Right. So you're asking a question and the answer was that the two bodies always, once they determine who's on that team from our side, who's on that team from the bargaining unit, then they basically come back to us and say, this is where we would like to meet. This is how we would like to meet. This is the time that, the schedule, what have you. And then the meeting, gets posted. From a public standpoint, it's it's irrelevant in the sense that those meetings are executive, from beginning to end in any event. But yeah, they should absolutely be done to the letter of the law as far as posting and location. But it could be, I think when we had started, right, we did some this last go round before we got paused. We were over at the current administration or CTC building, before everything kind of got broken up. But before that, we were in City Hall and up on the third floor, or different rooms here or there. So it could be that, and I would say, and Jess, and you remember this with the teachers, they had quite a large team, and I think part of the challenge, and I don't want to speak for them, but I definitely don't think that we can assume that they'll be able to weed enough out to say, only 2 people are going to go into that, if we're going to have only a select few that are in person, so that maybe that's a possibility, maybe not. It's kind of speaking to the unknown.
Well, I think putting the availability of a hybrid model out there, it is, once again, I don't ask anyone to do something I wouldn't do. And we got teachers in school every day. I think if you do it the way that, intentions are supposed to be done, I don't see why we couldn't do a hybrid model for anybody who needs it. And, but I agree with what everyone is saying here. So I do understand it.
Yeah, no, I don't have a problem with the hybrid model for any of this, but I guess, Joel, what I'm hearing from you is that you're not sure if IT is giving us a thumbs up yet.
No, I haven't spoken with Ben or Tony, or Peter for that matter, who was in place. I haven't spoken to anyone about what might have been the issue, because again, we were in place and you heard the echo and the sound was a little tough, and those that were online reported that there were pieces that they couldn't hear that didn't come through. So I felt that it was a safe statement for me to say that there wasn't a member of this committee that would want to proceed with a meeting where we could not ensure that the information was available to anyone that was trying to hear it. So again, the goal is to do as a meeting that is as in person as possible, which we talked about going back, I think, into the last term, right? We started with that. But again, we've got to be able to do it so that every public member has access to the information. But I have not had, so I haven't asked that question, Charlie. I just know that we were all there, and I just felt confident that we would agree with that being a stipulation to us doing that hybrid model again for a school committee meeting, and we should get assurance that we can do it.
Okay, and I don't have a problem with either way going, but I think we need to establish which way we're going to go. Do you think there's a possibility, and this will be my last question, that we would meet at City Hall at all, in the council chambers? Is that a possibility?
For our meeting?
For our meeting, yes. Or even if we're going to have negotiations up on the 3rd floor or wherever. I know those are separate questions, but the one question is about our meeting at council chambers, and the other question is having negotiations at City Hall, even in a hybrid way. And I'm done. That's the end of those. Are my questions.
No, and I appreciate the questions, because they're valid questions. As far as our meeting, I don't dictate where they happen. I'm one of 5 for sure. I know that Jess had always expressed that it seemed fitting that a school committee meeting happened in a school where we have the space. I agreed with that. But quite frankly, again, my question would be to IT and facilities with regards to their needs for spacing and technology. If they say, hey, listen, City Hall is the best place to do it if you want to do it right, then that's where we end up. If they say, hey, Waddington what do you call it, Jeff? The cafeteriatorium or whatever, is the best place.
That's perfect.
That's the guidance that I think we need. So before we left this meeting, the ask was going to be to the superintendent to actually, have her team kind of get that information set up for us so that we would know as soon as possible.
Okay, can we get a date and a time for next week's meeting though? That you want to do that first?
Yeah. So is everyone okay with that idea of having an executive meeting next week to review the contracts?
Yes.
Obviously.
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Are there any days that do not work? And I know Jess. So Jess, what is your best day?
After 6 years, Joel, it's still Wednesday.
Yeah. So Wednesday is still your best day.
No,
right?
It's the worst day.
It's the worst day. So any day but Wednesday.
Correct.
Right. Okay. All right. So maybe Tuesday. Is everybody good next Tuesday?
I'm good Monday or Tuesday.
Tuesday's good.
Yep, that works for me.
Okay. All right. So we'll square that away. We'll make sure Ben Scungio is available.
Okay.
And we'll send out superintendent, if you could.
Should we pick another day just in case he's not available Tuesday?
Which would be the Thursday. Because I don't think anybody wants to do it on a Friday.
No.
Well, that was my other day I'm not available. But other than that.
Yeah. So is Thursday good as a fallback for everyone?
I'm unavailable on Thursday, possibly, depending on what the Boston judge decides to do with me that day. So it can run really long, or it can be a short hearing.
Okay. You realize that would have just gotten legs, and you were in front of a judge awaiting sentence. So we're going to assume that's not the case.
No.
So
all right.
Is Monday better as the alternate day? Oh, Monday's a holiday this week.
So we can get a response. How quickly can we get a response from Mr. Scungio? We can find out tomorrow.
All right. If you want
Correct.
Actually, I could even text him tonight if the next item on the agenda is that technology position, which I'm going to turn over to Ben Russell, and I'll try to see if he can get him tonight. How's that?
Okay. All right.
First thing, definitely.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions on that?
No.
All right. So on that discussion item, the next one is that technology position. So I think, Mr. Russell, you are up.
Thank you. So this, do you have a job description in front of you for review for a technology position that it's a new position to the district, something that we have never had. The primary reason, and was one that, when we were discussing the new high school, we knew at that point that there would be needs well beyond what we've ever had for technology within the district. And timing wise, it actually lines up with the fact that everything about technology that we've done in the past 9 months has changed drastically. So we are looking for looking to extend upon our capabilities within the department to be able to support, as was discussed earlier with Mr. Bradner, the building engineering components of that building are extremely technical, as he mentioned, and that we want to have someone as part of our team who can actually support that component on the technical side. Those things are well beyond what we've ever had within our district to maintain for systems. So we want to make sure that we are fully ready and prepared for that.
Any questions?
I'm assuming Ben wrote all this, right?
I worked with other districts that have other similar positions, but yes, this is a job description I put together.
Can't argue with that then.
I think, and we've, by the way, hats off to, as always, to the IT team, because those guys, are the cornerstone of what we're doing, outside of what the teachers do day to day. But, giving them, make sure that they have the tools, and especially with the direction of everything, the kind of the silent, silent champions in the background. So we appreciate them for sure.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm very fortunate to have a good team.
Yes. All right, Mr. Chair, if we go back to number 5, we were going to ask the school committee about certain dates so that you could meet with Mr. Scunzio and the new members of the school committee could meet with him to a better understanding of that principal empowerment, school improvement teams, the roles and responsibilities of the school committee. Remember, we had mentioned that. Do you want to get some dates to tonight so that we can move forward with that meeting as well?
I mean, so we're talking about a separate meeting, a public meeting for that one. So what is the, I think.
No, it would just be for school committee. It wouldn't be a
No,
public. Oh.
But it would be public. It's, I don't believe that would fall under the executive guidelines to get, I don't know. That's the,
advice of the attorney. I think it does. I think you said it once before, but I'll double check that for you.
What's the opinion of other members on that? I mean, I think it's necessary. One, I mean, we talked about needing to do it. Now the question is, we're looking at scheduling something to talk about the negotiation, the contracts already. This would require a separate meeting, just from a time standpoint. No.
Well, if you limited your discussion on negotiations to maybe an hour, and then you did another hour that same night, you probably could get through it.
I mean,
What's
I still have questions, so.
Yeah, no, and that's, I don't want to push it off. If he feels like we can do that in, a matter of, 2 hours or less, and the committee is up for it, then we can do a,
okay.
We can do that.
No, all right.
Again, if the members, if the members are in agreement.
If not, we have a scheduled meeting when we did our schedule for the following Tuesday. Like we have, we always have 2 meetings scheduled. We don't always have them, but we always have 2.
Oh, he's available Tuesday.
Okay.
I'm gonna book him. Okay, I'm gonna book him. Yes, Tuesday. Do you want to schedule it for the following Tuesday, or do you want me to ask him that question, Joel?
So you want to do the following Tuesday as well, just for this?
I don't care. Whatever you guys want to do. If you want to bang it out in one night, we bang it out in one night. If you want to. I don't know how much.
For convenience purposes, I definitely don't mind doing it all in one night.
I'm okay with that.
I mean, I still have questions, and I supposedly know that. So.
Yeah, that's
one
night is good with me.
Okay. I'll ask him tomorrow. I'm going to tell him to book it. Okay. We got it. All squared away.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are we going back to the tech job?
No, we put it on the agenda so you'd have time to think about it, look at the job description, and we'll put it on for February's approval.
Okay, well, I just wanted to say that I thought about it and I read it, and the paragraph that's down there that says it is anticipated that this stress will occasionally be associated with this position, primarily due to the demands, should be on every one of our job descriptions from now on. It is point blank the best thing I've ever read. Just needed to say that out loud. It goes on to say it's necessary that the individual have the capacity to remain calm, considerate, and tactful under stressful and in unanticipated situations.
I need mine in bold print.
Well, yeah, yours goes right at the top. But I'm telling you right now, I read it and was like blown away from it. So
I liked it too. I have to admit, I did like it.
Yeah.
Ben can be very creative.
Well, I copied and pasted it in my note.
Yeah. So anyway, we wanted to give you time to just kind of read through it. If you had any questions, you can call Ben directly or you can call me. and will gladly answer any questions you have related to that position. Okay, all right, that's it for discussion items for me.
All right, next item, please.
The next item on the agenda is action items.
First being consider and vote to approve the bill list. Any questions or discussion on that?
I will make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Boshane, second by Mr. Chonis. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. And in typical fashion, items 2 through 7 approve invoices for, I'm sorry.
Number 2.
No, so I'm sorry. Yeah, not so. 2 is a technology support technician contract.
Yes, remember the last meeting?
That's right.
To negotiate with that gentleman, and I did, and he agreed to what you had asked me to. And so now the contract is there for your approval with the salary.
So I will make a motion to approve that because it is exactly what we talked about.
Yes, with the 6-month review. Yep.
I'll second.
Motion again by Ms. Boshane and seconded by Mr. Chonis to approve the technology support technician contract. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. Now, items 3 through 7 are related to the construction project invoices for AI3, Peregrine, Gilbane, Stephen Turner, and Thalshin. Mr. Enos, if you could read them through. And these have been vetted and approved by the building committee last evening.
Yep. AI3 basic services, $122,474.84. AI3 reimbursable, $373.87. Gilbane Building Company, $5,712,634.26. Peregrine Group LLC, $59,000. Stephen Turner Inc., $8,014.25, and Filch Engineering, $4,310 for a grand total of $5,906,807.22.
Sir, any questions, comments? A motion's been made by Mr. Chonis to approve.
Second.
We have a second by Ms. Azanero. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries to approve those invoices. Next item, please.
The next item is public comments 2, non-agenda items.
Okay. Sharon or Ben, do we have any?
Moment, I'm just going to check. There are no new public comments.
Okay. Having none, next item.
Next item is announcements.
I always look to Jess when it comes to announcements because it's usually something.
Subway Waddington this Thursday. I know that. I don't know if anybody else knows any. So that means you eat there, percentage goes to Waddington. It's about all we got this year for any kind of fundraising things. RMS is Panera at the end of the month on the 28th. So.
Okay.
And nobody go to school sick, please.
Yes. Yeah, let's please be responsible. Right. Okay. Nothing else. I will obtain a motion to adjourn.
I'll move to adjourn.
Jonas, with the motion to adjourn, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Mr. Brandel. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. And don't get spoiled, Max and Jenny. 8:30 will not be your bedtime on a typical meeting night.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, everyone. Stay safe.